Another week in the books here at the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast means you're tuned in to the Friday episode where we're taking a look at a little fantasy forecast, breaking down the top NHL awards a little too early in the season with updated odds and, of course, our best bets. Let's tap in and let's get this paper.
You're Locked On Fantasy Hockey, your daily podcast on fantasy hockey.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Fantasy fanatics, hockey heads, and degenerate gamblers, welcome back inside the lab to your daily source for all of the above. It's the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast, where we try and get you guys in and out in 30 minutes every single day, Monday through Friday, with all of the betting, fantasy, and NHL news that you need. I'm joined, as always, by my distinguished co-host, Mr. Steele Roden. On this side of the microphone, it's your boy, Big Flip Livingstone. Shout out to the everydayers. Salute, much love, and thank you so much for holding us down and making us your first listen every single day. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. It's somewhat unfitting, Mr. Roden, that we don't have a shout out to FanDuel to open up this show because we are taking a little fantasy forecast at these NHL awards early in the season, some updated odds, who we're looking at, maybe some best bets, some value. We'll wrap the show with Friday's betting board. I believe we have 4 games on tap tonight, but this is actually going to hold a lot of water in terms of fantasy because yeah, we're taking a look early down the road, but this means these are the fantasy studs that we count on to carry our team. So it's a worthwhile conversation. Over to you. Let's start with the Hart Trophy. Who are you looking at? Let's break down these odds. Shout out to you for a graphic or one time. Hit the YouTube account for the latest. Over to you, brother.
Yeah, Hart Trophy winner odds updated from the beginning of the season. If you're watching on YouTube, we've got the top 10 on the list right now. Connor McDavid at plus 210, followed up by Nikita Kucherov, Nathan MacKinnon, Kirill Kaprizov, Artemi Panarin, Austin Matthews, Cale Makar, Leon Draisaitl, Jack Eichel, and Igor Shesterkin. So those guys are the top 10 favorites right now for the Hart Trophy, the regular season MVP. And I'm honestly a little bit surprised that Connor McDavid's leading the pack right now at plus 210. My ultimate favorite right now, again, this might be a little bit biased of an episode, but my ultimate favorite right now is Kirill Kaprizov at plus 550 coming in at the number 4 spot. He has been a dangerous man this season. 7 goals, 21 points in 12 games so far. He's a plus 10 on the season. He does it 5-on-5. He's doing it on the power play as well, making those plays for his teammates. 21.2% shooting percentage so far to start the season for Kirill Kaprizov. So very impressive for this Minnesota Wild team who's been in the top 3 of their Central Division. They're top team in the goal differential category as well. The goals for, the goals against. Philip Gustafsson has been unreal. He's been the main reason why this team is 8-2-2 to start the season. So Kirill Kaprizov, to me, at plus 550 right now, you're getting some good odds. And I think, again, like the fact that the Minnesota Wild are this great compared to how they were last year, he's the reason for it.
I think it's definitely one of those odds at plus 550 that you want to be taking a serious look at. But I think you're going to like this angle that I'm taking a look at here. When I dive into Artemi Panarin's numbers over the last few seasons, Steele, this is just really impressive stuff. And you know I like to throw out under the radar, underappreciated, and underrated. And maybe Panarin is properly rated in most NHL dedicated fantasy circles. Let me run the tape back here. 2021-22, 96 points. 22-23, 92 points. Last season, 120 points. And to start the year, 9 goals, 9 assists for 18 points for me in terms of value and in terms of the importance to the club, not taking away from Kaprizov for a second. To me, the value jumps off the page for Panarin there. I think he was plus 750. That's one of those intriguing names that when I looked at this list and did a little bit of digging, I think, considering last year he finished 5th in Hart voting. He's going to be up there once again. Panarin plus 700. I'm loving it. I think the takeaway here for me, especially fantasy-wise, is Steele. And I know everyone's talking about that Four Nations championship or the cup or whatever. How good would the Russian team actually be, considering also all those studs in the net? I know that's a sidebar conversation, but considering how good both of those guys have been, they will be in the mix for the Hart Trophy this season, most definitely. And if you caught a piece of them in the draft this year, I can almost guarantee that if the rest of your team is even decent, you've been probably off to a very good start in those fantasy leagues.
Artemi Panarin has just been one of those guys that for some reason has very sneakingly gone under the radar when it comes to these awards. And again, sneakingly very finished the season 120 points last year. I mean, no one was really talking about the production that he was
Thank you.
doing. But plus 700, Artemi Panarin, Flip's favorite right now for the current regular season MVP odds. Kirill Kaprizov, both those guys coming in the fourth and fifth favorite positions right now,
Yes,
with the updated odds from FanDuel. Let's get over real quickly to the Rocket Richard race for the top goal scorer in the National Hockey League. These are the updated odds. Once again, if you're watching on YouTube, you can see it on the screen. But for everyone listening through podcast platforms, Austin Matthews comes in at plus 140. He's the favorite right now. And then David Pastrnak at number 2 at plus 800. So there is a wide gap between the favorite and the second favorite right now. You've also got Nikita Kucherov, Leon Draisaitl, Sam Reinhart, Tage Thompson, Connor McDavid, Kyle Connor, Kirill Kaprizov once again, and Mikko Rantanen. So over to you, Flip. Who's your favorite? What's your favorite odd right now? And who do you think's actually going to take home the trophy at the end of the regular season?
I've got two angles here to cover, Steele, and I think you're going to like this. Obviously, Austin Matthews at the top of the list. I'm not going to argue it, even though the start it's not concerning because obviously we've seen him been dealing with some sort of injury. When he gets back, he should be still on pace to be that guy. I'm not going to wager on it this year, though. I'm not wagering on Austin Matthews because I just don't see the value there at plus 250, especially when a guy like Pasta, who I know he was held off the score sheet against the Leafs the other night. There are not many guys that can one-time it in the game that I've ever seen with that ferocity and that accuracy. I'm going to go way off the board. And check me if you think this is crazy. But when I look into a guy named William Nylander's numbers over the last couple of seasons, this is a back-to-back 40-goal scorer. And he already has 10 on the season, and he hasn't even looked that good overall. So when I then pull up these numbers, Steele, and my goodness me, this is catching a 20 of my money tonight. Right now, he's at plus 8,000. Behind players like Rantanen, Caulfield, Point, okay. Plus 8,000, this is one of those situations where the odds makers are slipping. He has been a fantasy darling so far. The fact that he's not even in the top 10 makes zero sense to me.
I was just going to say the same thing.
I'll cop out. I'll say if I'm going with someone in the top 10, I like past that, plus 800. But if we're going off the board, plus 8,000, run out there and throw a 5, 10, or 20 on that right now because Willie, he'll be in the mix at the end of this season.
That was the first name I had circled when I was doing research on the Rocket Trophy race this season. William Nylander is up almost 10% in shooting percentage over pretty much the span of his career, at least the last 4 years on average. So he's up to 22.2% in shooting percentage right now. Like you said, 10 goals in 14 games. I'm alluding to big time bets at the end of this episode as well. We'll get over to that. But go back to what Mitch Marner just commented about William Nylander. When he's going, the entire team is going. He is leading by example, and I've loved the development and the character that he's bringing to the game now on a nightly basis. Not, the passiveness that we saw 3, 4, 5 years ago. So I'm loving William Nylander at plus 8,000 right now. If I'm going on the board, there's two names that really stick out to me. And again, they've got some pretty juicy odds. I'm liking where they're at right now. Number 1, Kyle Connor for me is a guy you got to talk about when it comes to top goal scorer. Plus 1,900 right now. He's got 9 goals as well. 9 goals on the season in 13 games, 19 points total. He's shooting the biscuit. He's picking those corners, and he's getting himself into some great scoring opportunities. So that's number 1. Further down the list, or actually above Kyle Connor, Tage Thompson at plus 1,400. really intrigues me right now. This is a
Okay.
guy who has 8 goals on the season. All 8 have come even strength, 5-on-5. So when this power play gets going for Buffalo and
Good
he
point.
starts shooting the biscuit like we know that he can, he did 2 seasons ago. Tage Thompson is a guy I'm keeping my eye on, and I think this is going to be a very tight race for the Rocket Richard. Because Austin Matthews is off. Both Austin Matthews and David Pastrnak are off to a slow start.
Yeah, just no value right now in Poppy at plus 140.
No, there isn't.
And I know we expect him to come back. It's just this is also one of those situations that the Toronto market, which is such a big betting market and just by population, it influences these things. These
Yeah.
boards like to go up and they like to throw the Leafs in the 4th or 5th slot for favorite for the Cup, so people bet on it, even though they're probably like 10th or 11th in terms of actual quality on the ice. The quality of today's episode, by the way, before I get away from myself, considering we're going down this rabbit hole, plus 20,000 for Alex Ovechkin. That might be catching a $5 of my money for fun. Steele. Depends on how many wobbly pops I have tonight. However, we'll continue to break down the awards, Vezina, Norris, and big time bets coming up at the end of the show. 4 juicy games, including Ovi and Sid going toe to toe. On Friday night, we'll talk about it. I got a player prop coming in hot from that game, Steele, and it's not the one that you think. However, today's episode is brought to you by Hims. Hims, you may have heard of it. They're changing men's healthcare by providing you with access to affordable sexual health treatments from the comfort of your couch. Fellas, I'm talking to you. You want to get it going in the bedroom? You want to be hitting up Hims. Hims provides access to a range of doctor-trusted treatments like chewable hard mints, Viagra, and Cialis, and their generics up to 95% cheaper. This could be a game changer. You want to tap in. Start your free online visit today at hims.com/locked-on. That's HIMS.com/locked-on for your personalized ED treatment options. hims.com/locked-on. The products just mentioned, chewable compounded products, which are not approved or verified yet or for effectiveness by the FDA. Prescriptions require an online consultation with a healthcare provider to determine if appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for details and important safety information. Subscription required. Price varies based on product subscription plan. Today's episode is also brought to you by our friends at Gametime. You know what it is with Gametime. Take the stress and the guesswork out of your next ticket buying experience with Gametime. Comedy, theater, music, or like Steele and I, sports in your area. Gametime is the app that you want to be downloading. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets right now with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Create an account. Redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. What time is it? It's game time, baby.
And thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every single day. Continue to smash that subscribe button, the follow button, leave a 5-star review. Flip and I appreciate all that love and support you show us Monday through Friday. 7 o'clock in the morning is when you can find our episodes. Thank you so much for tuning in. We're breaking down everything you need to know about the awards, the updated odds from FanDuel for this regular season 2024-25. And we're getting down to the Vezina Trophy winner right now, the top goaltender at the end of the regular season. And who else but our boy, Igor Shesterkin, coming in on top at plus 200. You've got Connor Hellebuck, Jake Ottinger, Ilya Sorokin, Jeremy Swayman, Andrei Vasilevsky. Your boy, Lucas Dostal, coming in at number 7 on the list. UC Saros, Philip Gustafson, and Jacob Markstrom. Those are the top 10 favorites to win the Vezina Trophy right now. Over to you, my friend. Flip, what's your favorite autumn? What's your favorite goaltender right now? Because I know who mine is.
Yeah, well, first and foremost, I think we're living in some sort of like parallel universe here where Kevin Lankinen is leading the NHL in goals against average with 2.09. He's in the top 5 in save percentage as well. This is a very interesting year already off the start, Steele. We got the Winnipeg Jets blowing the doors off the league. Connor Hellebuck is playing a lot of games, and we know that this has not gone well for the Winnipeg Jets when they overplay their man. And I'm not going to go out there and predict just because he's had a hot start and he's playing a lot, that just means he tapers off. It just means to me that in terms of the long run and making a bet here, if that's what we're really getting at, to me, it's got to be Shesterkin. That's just me. And I know it's right now probably 1A, 1B, and we could sit here all day and split hairs. They've both been deserving of this trophy so far. It's early, and that's what early predictions are. Looking at the rest of that list, I just really don't see it being anyone other than those two guys, if I'm being honest. Looking at Jake Ottinger's numbers, and you know how I feel about Jake Ottinger as well.
Yeah.
244 goals against, 917 save percentage, a 5-2-0 record on arguably the best team in the NHL, one of the best. Let's say that and cop out. So if I had to go, this is one of those rare situations that I think the 1, 2, 3 on this are almost a lock to win it. It's going to be one of those three guys. So I'll say Shesty. That would be my pick. If I had to go off the 1 or 2, I would go with Ottinger. Shout out to Dostal. I don't see it being anyone other than realistically Hellebuck or Shesterkin.
Yeah, I think when it comes to the Vezina Trophy and even to the Norris Trophy, it's very easy who you want to go with. For me, again, my favorite right now, it's the favorite on the board right here, Igor Shesterkin plus 200. He's top 3 in goals against average. He's top 4 in goals against average. He's first in save percentage at 933 right now. So he's got a 6-2-1 record, obviously, as well. Connor Hellebuck, 9-1-0 on the season. I'm going with Igor Shesterkin. However, I will say this.
Please.
Going off the board,
yeah,
I got to mention our boy Anthony Stolarz.
I knew you were going to
got to mention him. Plus 3,000 right now. He's off the list. I believe he comes in at number 11, so he just squeaked out the top 10, but plus 3,000 for Anthony Stolarz, who, again, is
you're right.
fourth in save percentage with a 928 save percentage. He's top 3 in goals against with 2.12 goals against average. He's got 1 shutout on the season. He's 5-2-2 as well for the Toronto Maple Leafs in his first season with Toronto. And the reason why I'm adding him as one of my favorites off the board is he hasn't faltered in a single game this season. He has not looked bad whatsoever. He's on his game. He's sharp. He's calm. He's cool, collected. He's making the appropriate saves. He's making some massive saves to keep the Maple Leafs in games time and time again. You know how they can break down in the defensive zone. He has kept them alive in every single contest he has started for them. Anthony Stolarz at plus 3,000. I had to throw his name into the mix.
And are you concerned at all? Like, I totally respect it. Are you concerned at all that the man has actually never started more than like 20 or so games, Steele? Because that's one of those narratives.
Not concerned at all.
Like, just flat out not concerned?
Flat out not concerned with, again, hasn't faltered, hasn't given any reasoning as to why he can't do this. And again, Joseph Woll, he's going to get his starts. He's going to get into game action. And it's not going to be a 50-50 split. But to me, Stolarz has solidified himself as the number 1 guy. Joseph Woll, again, with the injuries lingering that he's dealt with over the last couple of years, sometimes not being as sharp as Stolarz or goaltenders, especially in the Atlantic Division. You got to ride with Stolarz. But again, comparing it to what the Winnipeg Jets are going through, they're not going to overplay him. Again, he was a backup goaltender for his entire career up until this point.
Correct.
He's going to be the guy moving forward.
I don't disagree that he's going to be the guy. I'm not maybe going to buy into all these narratives because this is what happens in Toronto media. Even when the goaltenders are cooking, somehow the media finds a way to nitpick and find some sort of way to make it negative. I guess I got my eyes peeled because the fact remains that he just has not played it. So fantasy-wise, I know he's a big reason why you're in good standing in both leagues. That was a great snipe on your part. Obviously, I read into the Joseph Woll side of things. That was a mistake. Let's go with Shesty, though. Also, the way that he just turned down that money and he's just backed it up with solid play. And let's be honest, the Rangers are the better of the two teams. I think
Kevin Weeks just tweeted something about Shesterkin, and they're alluding to something about $11.5 million.
There you go. So I'm with you on this take. Fantasy-wise, those are the top 2. Vezina-wise, those are the top 2. Let's talk about the Norris Trophy very quick because so far that one's looking like a one-horse race for the most part. Let's break it down, though, right after the break. Big-time bets, baby. And we got a Saturday special coming in hot, so make sure you're tuned in for that one.
Tuning in to everything you need to know with these betting breakdowns and where you can place those bets. FanDuel. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. And once again, thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Pod your first listen every single day. Hit the subscribe, the follow button, leave a 5-star review. Flip and I appreciate all that love and support you show us Monday through Friday. That's why we're breaking down some of these early odds for the awards in the season so far. We're a month in. Let's break down the Norris Trophy before we get to big time bets for Friday. Friday's board right now, again, fairly easy, fairly distant gap between the favorite and the second favorite right now. Cale Makar at minus 155. He's the only player at minus 155 in any of the awards. Second place, Adam Fox at plus 650. You go down the list, Quinn Hughes, Roman Josi, Miro Heiskanen, Evan Bouchard, Victor Hedman, Josh Morrissey, Rasmus Dahlin, and Jake Sanderson, bringing up the rear at the top 10 position. Cale Makar, minus 155. No question about it for me. He's the favorite for a reason. He's just so dynamic. It's unbelievable that he's a defenseman and he's leading the NHL in points right now, or almost leading. Sorry, he's behind his teammate, Nathan McKinnon, at 25 points. So it's incredible what Cale Makar is able to do, not just defensively, offensively as well. He's a different breed. He is a different defenseman in this league right now.
I think what it really boils down to, if I'm just going to try and generalize, that man's skating ability is something that they need to put on, I don't know, a YouTube tutorial, put it in the Louvre, put it at the Hall of Fame, and let kids honestly study. That's how you play the game at today's level of NHL. If you can somehow even get close to that edge work, to that ability for him to shift in and out of the offensive and defensive zone with ease like he does, Steele, let alone the shot, let alone the IQ, and it almost like he has that nose for the net like a forward, and he is a defenseman. It's a runaway for him so far. However, I like to dig into value, and I like to dig into the odds. So if for some reason things go off the rails, I really don't see it, Steele. I really can't predict it. I like to say, check 5, check 10. Those other angles I do. I don't know if I would chuck any money on it, but if anybody, I think it's got to be Quinn Hughes at plus 750. If we're talking about a legitimate outside shot to win this still, if Makar goes cold, the Canucks have looked really good, and so has Quinn Hughes. 2 goals, 10 assists. I know it's not jumping off the page in the same manner that it is for Cale Makar. The numbers are sensational. Corsi, ownership, puck possession, all of it. He has been solid. 43 shots on net, 2 goals, 10 assists. Yeah, the peripherals aren't jumping off the page. That's not Quinn Hughes' game fantasy-wise. If I've got to pick it out, I've got to go with Quinn Hughes, because you and I haven't talked about the Canucks a lot, and I'll leave you with this before we get to bets. The Canucks deserve some credit for their start. Lankinen going in, Demko out, Shilov's out, not getting it done. Up front, Petey looking like a ghost, and they're still out. They're getting performances from Kiefer Sherwood and a whole bunch of other randoms. The team is doing well, and their top pieces aren't performing. That tells me that Rick Tocchet doing another really good job. So Quinn Hughes, outside value, plus 750. I wouldn't be surprised at the end of the season if he's right there in the mix.
Yeah, he's getting everyone going right now. Everyone is chipping in offensively. They're making up the ground for what Elias Pettersson is not doing in the offensive zone.
Yeah.
Some of the other guys potentially on the blue line. Again, they lost Nikita Zadorov. They lost Elias Lindholm, guys they had for a good half or a good portion of the season last year. So, again, still finding their chemistry, but their top guys, Brock Besser, JT Miller, Quinn Hughes, are getting it done. And, again, I think I sent that post to you. Thatcher Demko is taking some shots in, some drills in practice with the Vancouver Canucks. So we got to keep our eye on the any news updates for Thatcher Demko potentially coming back sooner than later. Let's get over to big time bets. 4 games on the schedule for Friday's episode. Over to you, my friend. Break it down for us. All 3 picks. rapid fire. Let's get it.
Let's go rapid fire. And you know what? It's been a rough week for your boy. So I hope I'm just gonna rub off on a little bit of this Steele Road in Minnesota Wild magic, and I'm gonna keep it simple with the first pick. The Ducks are still a bad team. Lucas Dostal, there's some good pieces here. They're gonna get there. The blue line also Zellweger and all these other Mintyukov. They have some really good players on the back end.
Struggling.
They're gonna be thank you. They're gonna be a good team. They're not there yet, and Minnesota is cooking. So give me the Wild on the money line as my first one. Let's get that out of the way. The second one is a money line pick as well, and I'm riding with your boy Stolars. Let's go with the Leafs on the money line at home. That was a big performance the other night against Boston. No Matthews, a shutout. Looked good at both ends of the ice. And hey, now, one of their biggest strengths that we know needs to go, especially come April, the power play. And it's starting to cook. Mitchie's looking comfortable. Willie's starting to go. The boys are going to go on a little heater here, Steele, and I really hope I didn't just pooch us. Leafs money line, that's the second one, and here's my favorite pick of the night by far, and it hit for me the other night. Ovi, 3 straight games, 4 shots, 5 shots, 4 shots on net. I had it at 3 the other night, and you're getting a pretty good odd considering that the offense is being pretty spread around right now. Ovechkin in his career playing against Sid, he turns it on in a big way, and I dug into these numbers. Ovechkin has the 3rd most shots of any team in his career going up against the Pittsburgh Penguins. He's only had more shots on goal against the Tampa Bay Lightning and Carolina Hurricanes in 76 career NHL games for Ovi. Almost 360 shots, 42 goals, 33 assists. Lock of the night, Ovechkin. 3+ shots against Pittsburgh. By the way, if you're not tuned in to Sid Ovi for one of the last times ever with Ovi chasing Gretzky, you better check your pulse as a hockey fan because that game's got to be on TV.
It is a must-watch game. Sid the Kid, the Great 8, Ovechkin trying to break Wayne's record. We got to show some credit as well to Dylan Strome. The Washington Capitals have really found a mini Backstrom, and he has been incredible with the playmaking for Alexander Ovechkin. Yeah, he has been phenomenal, so I'm loving all of those picks. That's why I also have the Wild on the money line against the Anaheim Ducks. They are 9-1-0, or they've won their last 9 against the Anaheim Ducks, 9 out of the last 10. Excuse me. Sorry, I tried to break this down. Wild on the money line. That's the first pick as well. I'm also teasing the over down, so I'm taking the over 5.5 in this matchup. It is still a back-to-back for the Minnesota Wild, so they might be a little bit tired. I'm liking the over 5.5 in this matchup. I've got 2 other picks as well. Leafs on the money line, -184. They are 6-3-1 in their last 10 games against the Detroit Red Wings. I will actually be in the building at Scotiabank Arena against this club, so I'm hoping that
missed my invite again. I guess that's okay.
It was a last-minute invite. I was gonna tell you about it, but I'll be in the building. And my favorite pick of the night, William Nylander, anytime goal. He has been on fire. 5 goals in his last 5 games, and again, he's just been dominating. I think the entire Maple Leafs team right now is looking for him to step up in a big way, obviously with Austin Matthews out. And I think even with Austin Matthews in the lineup, being the captain, first time for him this season, there's a lot of pressure on his shoulders. He hasn't been great offensively with the goal scoring touch. They look to Nylander. He's been by far their best player in the offensive zone. Lock of the night, Nylander, anytime goal.
Hey, let's have at it, Steele. I feel like there's one of those situations here where we could plug and play a couple of these picks.
Oh, we could do that.
Yeah, we might have to talk off air and cook up a little something. We got Hanukkah coming up. We got Christmas coming up. Hey, we got bills to pay. A brick of cheese is $9.50. You get me? So things aren't getting cheaper. Either is this show. Make sure you're tapped in for tomorrow's Saturday special. And we're here Monday to Friday all the way until that cup gets lifted, baby.
Every single day. Thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Pod your first listen every single day. Make your second listen the Locked On NHL Podcast, your team every single day. Once again, from both Flip and I, we wish you good luck with your bets tonight, with your weekly fantasy hockey matchups, and we shall see you back here again tomorrow for the Saturday special.